I'm not nervous. I'm just nervous.
Ten guys going live, so what can I say?
We're live now?
You're live now.
Okay. Thank you everybody for being here. We have a total of 6 candidates here for 5 positions. So when each candidate goes up, they will first have a 5-minute speech, and then a 10-minute Q&A section, and then a 10-minute deliberation where they will be leaving the room. If you have any questions, the link to the form is posted on the podium, so you can see visually. You can ask them a bunch of questions if you like. Yes.
Can I ask a point of clarification? So for contested positions, will the deliberation period be after each candidate or after both candidates are done?
So during, so let's say if it's OB's turn, then they will be leaving the room altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it is Matthew's turn, OB will leave the room altogether.
No, I mean like for the deliberation period, are we doing deliberation after each candidate or is it deliberation?
It's after the Q&A.
Okay.
So yeah. So each candidate will have their own deliberation.
Okay.
Any questions before we start? Okay. And the first candidate is Kit or Katie for the secretary position.
Are you guys good? Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Kit, and for those of you who don't know me, I've been part of UVSA since 2013. I started out as a staff for the festival. No, I volunteered, general volunteer with the festival. And then I eventually got more involved with VASA. And then after I graduated from high school, I became high school coordinator for the past 3.5 years. And during my time working with VASA, I realized that I really enjoy working with UVSA in general. And the main reason why is that we provide such a big support network for the younger generation. And that's something that I got from this organization when I first entered as a sophomore in high school. And for me, as running for secretary, I would like to continue that support for the younger generation. And I know that for secretary position, I work a lot with like high school student in general, because we want to continue to have them join our org after they graduate from high school. And that's where they start. With that being said, for me in high school, I didn't feel like I have that support at home or during school time because I didn't connect with my house or my school. And UVSA was where I first connected with being Vietnamese American. For the longest time, I moved here from Vietnam, like maybe second, third grade. And then I went to school in like a very Hispanic community. So, I kind of like disregarded the Vietnamese side of me. And then when I first joined UVSA, that's when I like accepted, okay, I'm Vietnamese American and I should be proud of it. So I want to be able to have the younger generation have the same feelings. With that being said, in the past couple of years, VASA in general has been losing a lot of their members. A lot of the schools are dropping out. And in the upcoming years, as secretary, I would like to fix that. My vision is that we will restructure VASA in a way that they will have a scholarship that supports some of the students who are generally like a lot of participate in a lot of our events and stuff. So in the end, I hope that they want to come back, not even if it's for the scholarship. That would be like a way for them to be introduced to UVSA. I wanted them to have a way that they can tell their parents, like, hey, this is why I'm doing this. Even if it's like, okay, I'm doing this for a scholarship. But if they're involved with us and they see that we have a passion to basically talk about our culture, show people our culture, and continue passing it down to the next generation, they might come back in high school, or not in high school, in college, I mean. And hopefully you guys see that my visions are true, and I put 100% of hard work into everything that I do, especially projects and stuff. So hopefully you guys will support me on that.
Okay. So right now we have 20 questions here. What, with your focus as secretary being primarily on VASA, how do you differentiate your position as secretary with the VASA coordinator position?
So as secretary, I know it has more to do than just VASA, but one of the big support would be, having to look over VASA, because I feel like every position we focus on one thing. For example, IVP, you focus on internal relations, right, with a different ICC for different school. EVP, you focus on the community. So that's the same thing with secretary. I will be focusing on VASA, but at the same time, I'll be helping the organize our internals paperwork as well as like the warehouse. It's just things that you need to, or I'll need to figure out how to separate them. And I'm hoping that, my board will help me do that as well.
Do you see the same need for a scholarship at the collegiate level as at the high school level?
In all honesty, I feel that we do need to give back to the people who participate in our organization in general. I know we give out a lot of grants within the community, but we don't really focus on the people who are helping us, which are internal stuff. So yes, but I want to talk to my board beforehand before we kind of, install that into our plan, because we want that to continue on later on. So if we don't have the funding to support both kind of scholarship, it's going to be really hard to kind of implement that for 1 year and then take it away the next year.
What ways, other than the scholarships, do you plan on increasing participation in VASA?
Currently for VASA, we are losing a lot of participants, and I can see that every year when I work with them. But one of the things that we've been trying to do this past couple of years is implement a way that we can talk to the advisor. We haven't been successful with that because whenever we bring up the idea of having a summit for the advisor and like their ICC, it's a lot harder to plan out when you're just high school coordinator and then the teacher don't really respond to you. But I feel like as board, being on board, I can push that out more. And if we can actually have board inviting the school out, that'd be easier. And on top of that, I would like the upcoming VASA board to, look more into opening or doing their VCN. This year they tried to do that, but because of time constraint and they didn't have the support that they needed, they weren't able to do that. So I'm hoping to prepare them enough this upcoming year.
In your proposal, you put that you intended scholarship amounts to be 1,000. Given that the revenue for that festival is inconsistent, how do you plan to expand revenue streams to continue funding these scholarships even when budgets are tight?
So I actually thought about this quite a lot, and I was thinking of reaching out to the community, to local businesses. There's a lot of local business that would like to support us. It's just we have to go out and talk to them and tell them our plan. And one of the things that we can include in the proposal for them is that we will include their name when we announce the scholarship. Like, okay, this scholarship is partnered with us or something like that. But we would definitely look for sponsorships.
What tools do you use to stay organized, and how were you able to use them efficiently?
For me in general, for you guys for those of you who don't know, I go to UCLA, so a lot of time I have a lot of things on my plate, especially when it comes to like planning out my day. So I have like an agenda of what I need to do, and that's usually on my phone from like Google Calendar or something like that, and I'll like space out time for what time I need to do what. Like for example, if I need to drive, I'll actually put in the time I need to drive and how long it'll take me, just so that if I'm past that time, then I won't be doing that activity kind of thing. So sometimes I'll be keeping up with my time, and it'll be like time is set for me. So yeah. And I feel like for that, I'll incorporate it back into UVSA in the sense that I'll have a specific time to do UVSA related work, and my board will know that that's the time I'm designating to do UVSA work. And if they want to talk to me about anything UVSA related, they can. Yeah.
What are your ideas to improve and your current understanding of the current organization and documentation systems of UVSA?
So I know that we have a big drive, like a team drive on, on Google Drive, but we don't really utilize that. I know Julie Huynh tried to bring that into our system a couple of years ago, but no one really used that. So I'm trying to maybe update that, try to go more electronic. If there's anything that I need to, if there's anything I need to do that needs to be electronic or needs to be saved in the database, and that's what I'm going to try to focus on. We do have some more old documents from, I think, room 2 that is not like looked through yet, so I'm planning to go through those as well with my board. Yeah.
What is your method to prevent leadership burnout within your e-board and staff as a whole?
So burnout, I feel like it happens all the time, even to like the best of us, because I know some of us like have a lot of busy life, busy work in our life. One of the things that I think would help is that if we're able to bond a connection with each other as like friends, then just like instead of like acquaintances, it would be easier for us to be like, okay, let's meet up and like talk about something versus like, okay, I don't really know you. I have to work with you. You're not likely to go out and like go out of your way to meet up with them and talk about those. So one of the first thing I want us to do is like bond as a board, and then later on incorporate our staff into our circle as well. Maybe go out to eat, do more than just like meetings. Yeah.
What ideas do you have to increase staff membership?
Staff membership. So from my understanding, I feel that when it comes to our main events, we don't really have that many events that have staff together. I mean, our main event is the festival, and then when we get into like October till like February, that's when we like forget about everything else and then focus mainly on the festival. For me, I kind of want to see more charity events in general, events where we can raise money to give back to a cause that we want. A couple of years ago, we did like a 5K marathon run. I don't know if you guys remember. I kind of want to bring that back. Hey, I want to bring it back because, okay, I don't like running that much, but it's a good cause. It's a good cause. And there's people who likes running. So, you got to make profit out of that. And then you can use that money to give back to a cause in our community. Yeah.
The term for executive board is 2 years. How do you see yourself growing in this position, and how will this position prepare you for your future career?
So for most of you who don't really know me, my future career goal is to be a professor for education. I eventually want to maybe get my teaching credential and like go out and teach. But I feel like within this org, I've learned a lot when it comes to organization. I do observe students as well when I interact with them for BASA and other people as well, especially our college student as well. So I feel that in the next 2 years, I'll be able to learn more about internal relationship with people, also with high school student, how they're reacting to stress, when are they usually stressed out the most, and stuff like that. So I feel like that would be very helpful with me when it comes to my research stuff for my PhD, because I do want to do more research on the Asian Vietnamese community in general. So that's going to be very helpful because this org, is the center of the younger youth for Vietnamese.
This is kind of similar to the last one. What is your major, and how will you apply it to your position?
So I'm a history major and minoring in education. I spend a lot of time analyzing texts. So I feel like that's a big thing for secretary in general, because you have to be able to understand how the people around you work. For me, secretary is not just a job where you organize things, like paperwork or like the warehouse, but it's more of like you're able to connect to people and you're able to see how you can solve the issues within the org. And with the skills that I've acquired from my major in general, I feel like I can use that to help analyze the situations more within our organization and see how we can go from there.
At this point, there's no more questions. Okay. Tell us about the time you made a mistake. What did you do?
That's a lot of times. Okay, so a time I made a mistake. Okay, so I guess you say a year ago or 2 years ago, when I was first entered as like Boston High School court, I didn't really want to put a lot of like, I guess you can say emphasis on like controlling the kids, or like not really controlling, but like micromanaging the work. So at one point, they decided they wanted to do like a photo booth, and it was very expensive. And I know that I should have stopped them, but I was like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And it just kept pushing to the point where I should have said something, but I just kept asking them, like, just giving them guiding questions instead. So for me, that was a big mistake because we lost a lot of money that year for VASA in general. So in the upcoming year after that, I remember to like tell them like do something that you will profit from, not lose money from.
Oh, there's 20 seconds left. Yeah, if there's more questions on here, then I can send it to you directly and
Okay.
you can answer, and then you'll be posted.
Okay.
So the next is 10 minutes of deliberation. So we're gonna have to go into the next room.
Okay, I have I guess a small question. So she really wanted to focus more on working with BASA. Don't we already have coordinator? Is that not what BASA coordinator?
She is the core.
Right. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Is that position not something separate? Yeah.
I asked that question to try to see what her perspective on that was. I mean, what I understood from her answer was that she felt like there were limitations that she could do as a coordinator versus what she could do as an executive board member. And that in having the title of being the secretary of a nonprofit, she's more able to connect with community members and to get the kinds of responses that she wants to move forward with her goals. That's kind of how I understood her.
So BASA is under secretary, so she's responsible to oversee the BASA coordinator and BASA. That's the BASA.
I didn't know. No.
So it makes sense.
Yeah. Oh.
I'd like to hear a little bit from the other e-board candidates on how they feel, their initial impressions of what she wants to do and how it fits with what they feel like they want to do. Or how they feel like, or how everybody here feels that her visions fit within the grand scheme of where they want to see UVSA go.
She has her own projects and it's something that we always needed, always, because we cannot afford to stay stagnant, we stay on the time. So it's something new, and I always prefer innovation over safety.
I think that I kind of overlooked Blossom myself and her idea to possibly provide, a scholarship for, some of the BASA members sound nice. But I do appreciate that she would at least want to review that with her board coming in, here to see where we're at financially. But I appreciate that. I feel that can be a bit overlooked at times, BASA, within they are the future of our organization as well. So that I appreciate that.
For me, I personally feel like it does really go well with kind of like the overall goal. I think a lot of us are trying to bring back to UVSA philanthropy and engagement with our staff members. Because over the years it has been kind of going down. But I think like bringing these new ideas and like trying to bring back the engagement that we had with the community and with our students and about students would definitely go along with that path.
Worked with kids before.
Oh yeah, like yeah, she I worked closely with her during the 10th year of the dog, and she was, I think, normally reliable and a very responsive. She felt like she normally knew what was going on, and so I'm pretty happy that she's running because I feel that she's always been one of our stronger members, and she's always been very reliable and very committed, and she's very open. And she's very open. I think when it comes to having a high workload, she won't just drop something without us having any foresight about what's going on with her. She normally is very vocal about how things are going with her.
Does anyone have any hesitations?
Well, for me, I've worked with her like the past 2 years as for the first year she joined in late high school board, and then she was also contests director for the past 2 years, and she's always been very on top of her tasks, whatever she needed to get done. She was very knowledgeable in terms of what she needed to do and organize too, I noticed. So I think in that sense, like, she is reliable because she's reliable for those reasons. And I really think that she's the kind of person that tries her best to execute what plans she had in mind. Like whole thing with LSC and having to do all that stuff and being a high school coordinator, she has really pushed the high schoolers and the lots of kids to.
So I was the chair 2018, and she was under the directors as contest director. And I think during that time, I liked her work ethic. I liked the dedication she put to the position. I know that she got heads with Kathy, and that was not easy. I think on Kathy's side, working with her, and I think everybody has we all have different work styles and the way we can do things. And I think he is definitely a solo player. So that's why I'm curious about her fitting into eBoard, because eBoard's not just one person. And I think that dynamic of how your team works is so important to how the whole organization sees you as a whole, right? So I am curious about how she will fit in as a team. I'm not questioning her ability to do the work. It's more of, when you're such an important position like a secretary, where you have to manage and also work with smaller groups within UVSA, like how do you make sure that you work with your team well without, like, oh yeah, I already did that, don't worry about that, or like, why would you tell me? I feel like those kind of things can come up, and that's my personal hesitation. Just going into or seeing her she'll go.
I feel like she's ready. Like she's gone through that motion of being coordinator, going through that as a director for several years. I think out of a lot of people that I'm thinking of, like she's the one that's like ready for the change. So she's not
Does anyone else have any comments or thoughts that they'd like to share? Or questions for us?
Julia, are you interested?
I'm on the committee, so I should say.
I'm interested.
We're good, there's nobody else. Okay, restroom break. They can come back. Break, break, 5 minutes.
Time to occur myself.
Jesus. And then now would be a good time if you have any questions for the treasure candidate to pass them on.
Floppy ears, oh my god, it's just multi-work.
You're supposed to send us candidates out. UVSA's how it is. You still can hear. Or
Did you hear everything?
The live?
The question next round.
He's not here, is he?
Who?
Is he here?
Is Nick here?
Nick is in the other room.
But he heard us all the way through the other room?
No, because there's a TV in there.
The live.
Oh,
What TV?
I don't think it was that loud, was it?
Just
You were out there, was it loud?
No,
I can hear.
you guys were good. So last year we also had them all the way up. So we can
You can have them all that way.
No, that way.
Yeah, never mind. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
It's closer that way, that's why.
Because Janet Jacoby was supposed to bring the North Carolina.
Send them outside.
She wasn't in the I was like, I didn't realize she was in the room, but she did sound loud. Because we couldn't hear her, so we turned up.
Oh.
She said she didn't hear me.
Yeah, she did. Taking notes.
Reading your messages. You
I know you've been sending me.
CPT.
Yeah.
They applied for in November.
Yeah, I'm gonna check right now.
They got other candidates.
You're
Make sure to stay
They said they got
like next to the podium, please.
Yeah,
You don't have to wander
Yeah,
off
I
of
was,
it.
I was hesitating because it didn't
Thank you.
turn the people. Like,
Wait, what?
I thought they
It's for
did.
candidates. They
Well, I have no idea. They just asked me, oh, we're still waiting for a check. I'm like,
Oh, I mean, like that, okay.
Yes, guys.
I haven't even.
No.
Do we ever, like, I know that I
Steve.
Who's
this Steve you're talking
to?
Oh, yeah, I thought this was based on Steve.
A new year, new me. A new day, new me.
It's the 5th month.
A new minute, new me.
New minute. Wait a minute. You can use that shit whenever. You know, that was me 5 minutes ago. It doesn't really
Yeah,
count.
no, I mean,
The whole new second, guys, the whole new
Only 30 seconds.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because obviously, like, those are the ones that we.
See, I will say I like the way you're
Some
looking
have-
right now. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to get this. I'm
Yeah.
really trying today.
Okay. Well, I mean, the scoring sheet is there. I mean, I just took averages. I didn't really do it at all. I took averages based on the number of people.
Honestly, like, why do we
Oh my
even?
god.
As cool as those are, it reminds me of you.
She's a nerd, like whenever you see those.
Hell yeah. No back support. What is it?
Yeah, you ain't no back support.
Relax, Tim.
Sure. You want to say you're cool?
Yeah, I'm cool. Yeah, just like the ice. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ever see ice? That's not cool ice. You know, melt, right? There's ice in my veins.
I got frostbite just looking at it.
Ice.
I got frostbite looking at it.
What's that frostbite?
He's
Like, he calls his eyesight big.
He's a
He's a frostbite guy.
Why did Loki never turn blue again?
I don't know, man.
Because
He probably doesn't look good in blue.
he's a frost giant, and he turned blue in the first Thor, but then he's never turned blue in any other movie that he's been in. Probably because they thought,
Yeah, that was pretty stupid, by the way.
I guess like his actor must look very attractive, and him being blue takes away from the
Yeah, I think like anyone blue kind of takes away from the
Tom Hiddleston look.
Oh, yeah, because it came in kind of.
Hell yeah.
Okay, back to the.
Okay, well,
I mean, for most people.
Fuck your background? Jesus. Yeah, I think people have done that. I mean, I heard you already had it. So, if you're gonna walk, you have to.
The right way to get to
Think about it. You never. Well, they do. They don't.
Yeah, I believe so.
All you need to do.
Next candidate is Stephen Morris.
Let's go, Steven.
Wait, whenever you're ready, we'll set the timer. You ready?
Yes.
Ready?
Okay, folks, I am Stephen Morris, and I'm running for UVSA treasurer. So why I'm doing this is, quite frankly, I really love this organization. Just the past few years, it has really allowed me to grow as a leader. It has taught me technical skills. And as a non-Vietnamese person, it's taught me to expand my perspective and to, really think of the other communities around me that are not Black. And I feel the best way I can give back to this organization is if I can once again serve in a position that will not only challenge myself, but one that will also greatly benefit the organization. So in terms of my experience, currently I'm the finance intern. I've served 2 years on TED Finance, and I've also served in the grants committee. So I have experience handling large sums of money, and I've experience using some of our various software, such as our Zero accounting software and or our Square POS. Uh, and as well, I've served as internal relations coordinator, and I've also served as co-tech marketing director. So I have experience outside of finance, and that experience I think has made me more well-rounded to how vast and broad this organization is. And I feel it at least gives me an outsider's perspective as to what it's like to work with a treasurer and to be on the other side of, let's say, a budgeting meeting. And I do understand that when you're on the executive board, there is an expectation to not only represent this organization, but to also, be a face to the community. I'm not Vietnamese, obviously, but then just all throughout the years, I have gone to community events. I have had the chance to meet our various alumni, and I have through grants. I have met some of our brother and sister organizations within LBN, for instance, and I've had the chance to at least show a face, and then they've actually recognized me, which I guess is pretty easy. But I think that I like doing that, and I'm ready to continue the trend if I am on the executive board. I am ready to interact with the community, and I live in Carson now, not Northridge, so it's only a 20 to a half-hour drive to get here. So then it's a lot more doable for me than for years prior. In terms of a few plans that I plan to do, as stated in my proposal, I would like to implement the ability for our patrons to pay for their festival tickets with card at the front gate. I think it's something that would really modernize the experience for our patrons. And I feel that the money that they can use on their card, they will have more cash on hand to use at the booths and at the other experiences at TED. I also plan to change the check writing system as it is now. I plan to not handwrite checks. With my plan, I would use our accounting software Zero to print our checks, just so that way it saves time from us having to handwrite checks and then having to later reconcile it through our software. With my idea, all the checks I write will have already been in the software because I'm using it. And so then that can save time on the accounting process later on. And I also would like to get more active with our tax planning, and as well involve my finance interns for the years coming up. In the process, I think that can be a valuable experience for those who have an interest in being a finance intern. And so with all that said, if I am elected as a treasurer, I will give this my all for the next 2 years. I am turning a 26, and then as the term ends, I would be around a 28. I think that would be when I would naturally want to end my time with the organization and transition on. But then I really want to give this org the best I can give it for these next 2 years and have a positive impact. So thank you.
Okay, so the first question is, your budget proposal focuses very heavily on the finance aspect of the festival. What do you think should be the financial priorities for UVSA as an organization during your term?
I think that I honestly need to see more of how we're doing financially overall to have a comprehensive answer, but I feel based on what I know now, our current TED Festival was not entirely financially successful. I feel that our priority should be the trimming certain expenses that I feel are not essential for our committees and for our projects to run. And so like if let's say a committee has a high food budget, that would honestly be something that I think we might need to look into cutting a bit, just so we're able to run as an organization effectively. I think that my current mindset would be more focused on the preservation and then just keeping the essential aspects for our projects that can, be used still to attract more staff, because I feel, let's say, a food budget shouldn't be why our staff is a volunteer.
What is your major and how do you apply it to your position?
I actually majored in information systems in college. I honestly don't like it, and I have no plans on ever using it. So, as it was like that, as that actually happens, I think to some people, like, they do graduate with a major, but then they realize that they don't have a passion for it. But then I do have experience working with technology and I feel that I grasp software easily, but there aren't really any principles from my major that I would apply because I'm currently not working in IS myself.
The treasurer position is one of the more work-intensive positions, given that you must be reviewing budgets, proposals, and EAS, both of which come in consistently throughout the year. What is your plan to tackle this constant workload?
I plan to really have a consistent schedule coming in, just so I can set aside time for tasks essential for the UVSA. I would want to make sure that that is communicated effectively for all those that I am working with. That would understandably get a bit more flexible when it's, let's say, TED festival season, and then it's like the week of festival. So I do understand that that's when you need to get more flexible, but I think that really following a set routine and then actually making sure that, the people that you're working with, that they understand your schedule. I think that can be effective when it is communicated effectively, but I would really want to have essential time management.
What is your strategy for saying no to a financial request?
I think that it's honestly kind of a simple thing. I think that you just have to hold to your answer. After you feel that you've, reviewed it enough, I would say no, but then I would look for alternatives with the person. Like if, let's say, they wanted to have, a food budget, and then it's going to be a no, I would tell them no, and then it would be firm, but then I would be open to helping them find other resources that could, maybe we could get a food donation. I'm willing to explore options, but I feel that you just have to be firm with your answer, because if people sense that you're kind of a wishy-washy push, like a pushover, then, that's not going to get things done.
What is your method to prevent leadership burnout within your e-board and staff as a whole?
I think that this goes really to proper communication, and the folks feel that they're really comfortable with each other to share what's going on. I think that getting overworked, it happens definitely, but then I feel that intense burnout happens if, let's say, that you feel isolated and you feel that you have no kind of support. I think if staff can be open with each other about what's going on, if they feel that we have each other's backs, I think that in times if, let's say, someone gets overworked and that they know that their peers are going to help them out, I think that they're more willing to get revitalized afterwards.
What are your plans to secure the financial stability and health of UVSA in the long term? In other words, what are your plans to expand and diversify UVSA?
I actually really like the mindset our camp staff has this year in terms of finding more sources of income. I feel that we have a lot of resources in front of us that we don't actually look for. Like, for example, just for doing research on possible grants, I discovered this week that Sears has grant programs, and they're like a member of camp staff this week told us that a Walmart offers grants. I think that I would really like to get on board with just looking for local people that have grants, and then also maintaining those relationships, because if they can do it once, then they might be willing to do it longer term. And I think that it's just actually acting on it. And so like just what we're doing with camp, that was actually something that kind of fired me up right now.
Please describe your current understanding of UVSA's financial status and identify areas of weakness or improvement.
My current understanding is that TED Festival is basically our main money-making program. And then if it does well, then we're doing awesome. And then if it doesn't do well, then we're kind of in a rut. Having one bad year won't kill us, but then I do understand that if we're barely making anything over the consecutive years, then we're in trouble. And so my current understanding is that we need to look for more ways to bring in income, because our other programs that we do, they don't really fundraise large bulks of money.
What are your plans and ideas to achieve a positive cash flow? You've been a finance intern in years with high debt festival turnout. How will you manage a budget that is more lean?
As I said before, I would have to look to see what are things that are not essential, and or just look towards budgets and think for these the resources that we already have. I would want to work closely with the secretary, for instance, to know what exactly is inside the office. I kind of feel that we have boxes here that we haven't touched for years, and it's like, who knows what's in them. So I think that if we really have knowledge of our current resources, I think that would also help when it comes to having a leaner festival, is just knowing what we have on our hands. And I'd imagine that we're going to really push for Tech Festival as well, to find more sponsors and or to maintain the good relationships.
What ideas do you have to increase staff membership and retention?
I think that this is a pretty large topic. I honestly feel that we have a lot of potential in front of us as well. Like how I feel that the year that I did in internal relations, we had over 10 coordinators, and then our core meetings were almost always filled with most of us there. And I feel that that was a year that the U was more active when it came to doing the school tours, and with really interacting with our potential staff. I think that we need to really strike early on when it comes to fostering bonds with like the other schools, for example. I think that if we just wait until spring, it's a bit too late. And so I think that we need to have a very strong beginning to actually build those bonds and to bring in leaders.
How do you see this position fitting in with your long-term personal and career goals?
I would say that this would provide a lot of just good personal skills, such as how do I budget, how do I interact with people, how do I hold true to my word and be firm with people, and or how do I compromise if there is a dispute. This role will have me work with an executive board, and I will have to work with a lot of projects and committees, and I might have to be the bad guy at times. I think that it's something that will help sharpen my character into being very decisive and firm.
Okay, 5 seconds left.
And thank you.
You're gonna go all the way up.
Also, outside.
Yeah.
In your car.
Go back to
We'll
Drive away.
We'll unlock it when we're ready.
Go back to
You are? Oh, shit. Yeah.
So we start talking, or is this
Okay, so we go ahead and start.
I'm gonna say fantastic stuff. I really like what he said. I have a lot of confidence in just his initial plans and also his eagerness to be on this position. I think UVSA needs that. I think that kind of energy will definitely flow its way outwards to the members as they get to see what he can do and whatever e-board is going to assemble. I just like what he's doing.
I think one word that I would describe Steven's intent is genuine. Like at least talking to him about the position or anything like that. No one's like forcing him to do this at all. It's completely based off of self-will. And the man has a lot of self-will. So like I think that's it speaks volumes on his character in terms of the leadership position.
I really like how you pointed out how we should start. He didn't really say it specifically, but he tried to focus on the importance of the first few months. That's when it's critical to form relationships as or whoever that is a part of our organization to start strong, and it will be way too late if we start to think about it. That's great. That's what I like about this.
I think one of the things that he's pointed out is going over like the budget and making sure that we're not spending money on like other unnecessary stuff for our committee, for example, like food budget and stuff like that. That's something that I think, we kind of overlooked in the past. And past the recent Blood Festival, we didn't make that much money, so that's something that we really do need to look into for this upcoming year. Just cutting back costs in general and allocating those funds into stuff that we actually need.
So I noticed that you focus a lot on that, and I understand that UVSA focuses a lot on that. And I think you said it kind of clear, if that does well, we're in the green. But if it does bad, then we're in the red. And if that happens consistently, that is a big issue. I understand that, UVSA, we get grants from other places, but those aren't consistent. And yes, we can form relations, but as I said before, it's not consistent. So, I wasn't really satisfied with how he would try to get more funding for the organization in a whole.
Do you want to finish in your thoughts? With Steven, since he's on VSA, he went from like fundraising chair to president to, I've seen him grow. I've seen him work within the organization, with UVSA, with System VSA, and he still kind of acts like as an active alumni, with System VSA too. So it's really cool to have someone who, even though he's already graduated and stuff like that, he still tries to connect with the BSAs and whatnot. And he was also my finance intern for this year. And one thing I like about Steven is that he takes initiative to take on more roles and responsibilities. Obviously, there were some roles that he already had to do, but he was always willing to learn more and to learn, how the in and outs of the organization is from a treasurer's point of view. And he said to me like way earlier on before that festival, he's like, I really want to be treasurer. And I really think that he has been part of UVSA long enough to really understand what the needs are of the organization. And I think that Steven is ready for the position, if anything. And even though you might not know exactly, all the fine details, in terms of his work ethic and how he approaches problems, that's something that it's his strength going into the position.
Does anyone have any hesitations about working with Steven or any issues that they've had in the past with Steven?
I think it's just up to the subcommittee board to make sure that like he feels supported. Whether it's like the responsibilities he has or even like within the community itself. I feel like the community has harsh words sometimes, so just making sure that he gets that support.
Has a tendency of taking on a lot of work on himself, which is in itself a double-edged because he will get it done, but at the risk of his energy and love creativity kind of going away. So to add on to what Paul says, there has to be a lot of support from the board to make sure he doesn't take your responsibilities with you and try to run it with you to make sure like, hey, I understand you want to make sure I get this done, but let me handle it. I'll let you know where my progress is, because he will burn himself out. I'll do it.
I think Stephen, I think a lot of people have said this already, but I think his biggest, his quality that stands out the most to me right now is his enthusiasm. And I think that the enthusiasm is the kind of contagious enthusiasm that the organization needs to be a stronger organization in terms of membership, in terms of turnout, and in terms of the impact that we have on others. So I think he does it.
Yeah, I also agree with that. That statement because Steven is currently on my team A for camp, and throughout the few weeks that we have been team together, he's been like pretty much the primary voice for a lot of the new ideas and like especially the cultural ones. So it's kind of funny because recently he just sent me a message like regarding the big steel circle that we have here at the U as we should paint it the freedom flag color and use that as our freedom off. Because we're thinking about going as entertained. Yeah, so basically, not that one, but the steel one. But basically, because of him, he's been like kind of motivating a lot of the other teammate members because a lot of them are new or shy and kind of get them going. So I really appreciate Steven's like enthusiasm to like get the conversation going.
I mean, even coming into the position, like, you definitely have much more experience with UVSA than I did when I came on Burger. So, he he's done IR, which is more of like the ICCs and internally, and then he's also done that and also working on camp now. So I think he has a good understanding of like the overall of UVSA.
Any other thoughts or considerations?
Okay. And it's the next break time. More snacks.
Willing your bladders.
Really see it from the start.
The next candidate is Jen for external people.
Wow. I've been standing the.
9 minutes.
I've been standing the document questions.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
He went out with you, Melissa.
Now you can leave without the stress.
Where the Oreos at?
Unleash the world.
Release the I don't need them. It's like
You're there.
You know what's funny? Every time you ask her a question, you kind of smile. I don't even know that shit. Yeah, you're like, it's like you ask me a question, and then you're like, yeah, I just did that. I'm not the first time. I now before I even answer, like, God.
Mind you, it's alive. It's alive.
I enjoyed that. Like every time you got a question, you sat there for a second to think about it before you started. Because like, it just sounds like a bad thing, but like you thought about it and then answered it rather than just answer and then try to think while talking, which is something that I appreciated. I read that in a book. Yes.
Instead of saying or anything.
Yeah, you just sit there and you have your thoughts and you're like, okay, that's my answer. And I was like, oh, that's good. And the book was yeah, rather than vomit some words, you know, like rapid fire. I'm a psychologist. Are you a preacher?
Nervous. Okay. Excited.
There you go, plug it. We need you to order for Johnny. You know,
We need to bring our Tolkien.
Johnny's favorite chocolate shop.
Like
I figured butter.
Dude, I had it.
Feels
on the
watching.
website yesterday. They're like the meatiest taco.
I miss.
Oh, well, what do they call it?
Over by UCO?
Oh, okay.
Wait, of course. I know.
You don't know?
I missed their butter fries.
Oh, dude. And then that donut place that over the riverside, like the one at home. The break shake. It's a milkshake place. That has the. Well, yes, like they also opened up in Riverside, not for Jimmy. They had carne and sour fries with a great shake milkshake. So what they do? Should have told me I like some of the bigger milkshakes. Not gonna lie. They put a little mini donut around the straw. And then they played up those fries and that milkshake. We would make like evening.
I just speak. I have to go right now. Yes. I just want to talk to you quick. I know that cutting budget is really important. Balancing, as treasure balancing. But you also have to take into consideration how to balance the budget while also keeping your people happy. Having compassion to focus and then right. And it's like a food budget. Like I know that it's not a necessity. When times are tough, then you have to do what you need to make the money. Honestly, no, wait, no, please. Who knows, man?
You haven't given up on that.
Well, they're out there. Because they might be going through a dry spell too, so then now
So as long as you're proactive.
Please. No, talking about you. I was talking about you. I was like, and then like, I didn't see her.
They wrote it like her.
And so,
It was really like surprisingly easy.
yeah. I'm like checking back from the club now. I think. And also, where's Warrior? Try to do the
I don't know how many times have you seen me doing speech.
for years now.
How many times have I done speech in front of someone?
Yes, years. Next week. Oh, wait. Yeah, next week, on the 11th. Because we switched the days to, because it was going to be election. It was all one. We had to switch on Saturday. So, fuck off Saturday. Yeah. Come here.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Wow, xin chào anh chị em của tổng hội sinh viên. Well, good afternoon, brothers and sisters of UVSA. My name is Tin, and today I'm running for the external vice president. So coming into UVSA, I've been staffing for UVSA for almost 3 years now, and I started with a staff member for marketing committee in that festival, and then slowly I transitioned to that festival marketing co-director last year with OB, and I was also co-coordinator for UVSA VCS with Alex. So in a sense, because of marketing, it encourages me to take on this position as the external vice president because I see myself involved with the communities through marketing over the years, through like the TV stations and through dinners and all the other events that I go to. And just one thing that I feel like UVSA is currently not very performing well is having other projects besides just that festival and camp. Because from the community perspective, it feels like UVSA exists for one reason only, that festival. Like they don't even know what we are doing behind the scenes, or what we don't even know like what the programs we have because those are not very those programs are not very like publicized. So people questions, people asking like, oh, besides that festival, like what are the things that this organization do? And we do give out grants. We do give out grants and participate in communities events. But I feel like we need a little bit more. And so coming in as an EVP, one of my main goals is to bring in a philanthropy committee, um, which I will be the one who in charge of. And I will also pick out an intern or pick out a volunteer who wanna be a lead. And eventually, in my second year of my term, we transition it into an actual committee with a coordinator. So the reason why I want to bring in philanthropy committee as one of my focus for the external vice president positions is because I want us to have a little bit more of a sense of purpose besides just doing that festival. And since we are a quote unquote Vietnamese American organization, so we need to get ourselves involved outside of the Vietnamese community as well, instead of just within the Vietnamese community. And by doing more philanthropy projects, it will create, it will help us have more things to publicize on our website, social media, and other platforms, as well as for the students who are in the organizations that try to apply for jobs, and they write resumes and they use our organization names as one of their experience. It's better if when people look up on a website or when people look up on social media, they see that us doing a lot of things and us providing a healthy environment for the students to grow. Because philanthropy project is not, um, in a sense, it's not easy, and it will provide the students a lot of chances to grow and to understand the world around them besides just being student go to school and go home. And another focus that I wanna do as an EVP is getting myself involved with the community um, more by attending to the important events and also rallying um, my peers, the e-board, the potential future e-board, as well as coordinators to go to community events with incentives that will benefit them. But yeah, those are the two things I want to focus as an MVP.
The first question is, there are always low turnouts for external and community events overall. How will you increase participation in these events?
I feel like over the years that being involved with UVSA, I noticed that the community events are not very advertised on our platforms because but this is from my own experience. Like I barely know any of those events besides looking on a calendar, and usually people don't look at calendar that often. So the first step is I myself will be the one who participate in those events and also encouraging friends and peers and make it like more than just an event, but it can be like a networking event, a networking opportunity, or we can do something afterward, like go out and eat, like bonding experience. But those are on top of my head. Those are the things that we can start with, and potentially when we have more resources, we have more things available for us, then we can establish a better incentive for people.
What is your method to prevent leadership burnout within your e-board and staff as a whole?
I think Stephen worded very well. The only way to prevent burnout is communications, because with strong communications, um, everyone will understand what you've been through and what you are going through, and like what basically causing burnout. And as e-board, uh, I believe in the early on, we all together need to establish a sense of we there, we are there for each other, and you can trust me and I can trust you, kind of things, so that we can be comfortable with each other to tell each other about problems that we encounter in life. Because all of us, besides volunteering for UVSA, we have other things going on too. And the first step is just to understand like what other people have been going through, and then that's when we can create a support system for each other and go through the burnout together.
How do you see this position fitting in with your long-term personal and career goals?
Um, well, my career goal is I don't have a definite like job title, but I wanna learn a lot of like skill sets. I wanna learn a lot of I wanna get myself involved in a lot of like different job titles to learn things. Like I started out as a multimedia production major with my degree, which is basically it taught me how to use like cameras, how to use like softwares to like edit, make videos and whatnot. And I did a little self study on like marketing, because of that festival, and I eventually grew interest to it, and that's what made me feel like I shouldn't limit myself into one or two job title, but I should learn as much as possible because, like I said, I mean, I'm still in my 20s, and it's the best time to like increase on my knowledge. And basically, this position as an EVP, besides providing me the chance to work with other people and learn management skills and learn um, if we do philanthropy projects successful, it's gonna teach me how to be financially um, conscious, not just for myself, but for, in a sense, the organization that I would work for. And the biggest thing that the EVP position will teach me is to communicate with people that I might meet once or twice, or I might meet for the first time. Because as an EVP, that's the job is to introduce myself to a lot of people, to get to know people, and kind of establish myself within the community so that people don't just go to like the past alumni, like Min or Billy, to ask about updates for UVSA because eventually we need to move on. Yeah.
Your position focuses a lot on event planning, coordination, and execution. How will you ensure sufficient staffing without overuse of human resources in our organization? And how will you balance regional events with school events?
Can you repeat the first half of the question? Because it was really loud.
Your position focuses a lot on event planning, coordination, and execution. How will you ensure sufficient staffing without overuse of human resources in our organization?
Okay. I think that will have to start with being aware of what my resources are and also establish from the beginning about how many people or like in terms of human resources, like what I have and what I need and communicate it early because if we can sort through things together in the beginning, it will help with it will make it easier for, let's say, overusing the human resources. Because I know that everyone will be taking care of like other projects at a time. But like if I know, if I and the team that I have plan out exactly what we need and what other people can help on, those they can contribute not just entirely, but even a small part would help. And I think, like I said earlier, communication is probably the most important.
Working with the older community can be challenging at times due to language barriers. How do you plan to train future staff and your future committee to communicate with the older diffuse community?
I think for this particular question, um, I usually do a thing called like a culture lessons, which I will teach people words that will be important for them to know how to use when they encounter like all of Vietnamese people, because they themselves also understand that not all of us grew up speaking Vietnamese. So being able to introduce, being able to say a few things that are important, and also being aware of the environment um, is important for whoever wanna have interest in going to community events or wanting to talk to like older Vietnamese community members. I mean, I'm not a teacher, but I can teach people a few things to say because I'm fluent. Yeah.
In your opinion, what is or are required of a great leader?
Okay. Just speak from my experience as marketing co-director for that festival 2018, and also president for Season VSA in 2017, 2018. The biggest and the most important thing the leader should have or basically like to define a leader is a vision. And I believe that everyone want to follow someone with a vision and not just all talk, but a passion to pursue the visions. And also um, to prevent uh, oppression or dictatorship or uncomfortable when working for that leader also have to be able to know how to communicate and also understand that other people have other priorities too. Like we all work toward that visions, but we all come from different areas, and um, is the leader responsibility to rally that, to basically taking the strength and like knowing the strength and the weakness of each person that I work with and bringing that together to build the team. That's my opinions.
UVSA already supports the collective philanthropy project. Do you plan on building off this relationship or forming a new philanthropy project altogether?
Um, I do believe that we should form a new philanthropy project committee altogether because the current philanthropy, the two main philanthropy projects that I know of at the current moment are the CPP for UNAFSA and the community grants. But I feel like the community grants only open up to the Vietnamese community to participate, but I wanted to bring it to the outside, like the outer communities and other charity like programs that we can participate in, because that can also create an environment for us, like other students, if they cannot commit in like a dead festival, they can come to those events and participate, and they can still get like volunteer points and other um, participation within the union.
There's still a lot of questions left, but we ran out of time. So I'll send you the questions afterwards, and then you can answer them.
You bet.
Might as well go get like
Toss in the back.
Go. You want to?
That was the longest 10 minutes ever for me. I was like, oh my god, it's only 3. Is that legal?
Yes, you need to go to the restroom.
She said, get out.
Yeah.
Wasn't your cold really new?
It's 2 years.
Oh.
Yes,
That's too bad.
Yeah, and
You're good. And
I haven't had my letter.
it's tenfold.
I would get it.
Okay, initial impressions / thoughts.
What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
No, nothing.
So I think, in my opinion, EVP has been a role that's been kind of ill-defined aside from the fact that they work with the community. I think that giving that his idea of having a philanthropy project is a great start in expanding the responsibilities of the EVP to more than just attending community events, which is very vague in my opinion. I wasn't, and this is just personal preference here, I wasn't too thrilled when he mentioned that he felt like it should be separate from CPP, from UNAFSA CPP, just because I feel like that undermines a little bit of our solidarity with the rest of our brothers and sisters in UNAFSA. But that's, again, that's personal preference on my end. My biggest concerns, or I guess I wouldn't say concerns, but my biggest questions that I'll have to, wait and see the answer have to do particularly with working with the community. I have no questions about his ability to work with the community, but rather his plans for expanding that into and getting others to come with him, because they can, like, community events come on really short notice sometimes, they come at really inconvenient times. Sometimes you'll get a lot of flack for not going to something, even though it's something that, even though you have a perfectly good reason not to go. And it's a challenge to make it all fit and work. And it's even harder when you try to bring other people into that mix. So that's kind of my biggest question. It's not a concern because I would be worried about this no matter who the candidate is. I think given his skill set and his past experience, I think Tim is the best person for that particular role and trying to engage more people in the community while also making them comfortable and familiar with the community to begin with. So those are my initial thoughts.
I've known Tim for about for almost 4 years now. He is a dedicated guy. He is extremely committed. I would say he's very reliable too. And when he takes on a project, he will give it his effort. I just think his biggest weakness is his ability to come on time to anything. And so it's like my only concern is just going to be that I hope if he, for instance, is going to be spearheading us going to events, for instance, he needs to be on time. If he's, for instance, leading and like if he's my liaison, I've been to community events myself to where I came on time and then the person I was supposed to be there with came about an hour late, and me as a non-Vietnamese speaker, I was kind of awkward almost the entire time as I was waiting. So I think that it's something that you would have to keep in mind is if there are people who really are new to this, he needs to be there first, just so it's easy for them that are there to actually say hi to people and socialize.
I will say that Tim does have an issue with timing, coming in time and stuff like that. I have personally experienced this myself, but he has. I talked to him like numerous times, and he already explained like plans of like moving down here to UVSA, primarily in the Anaheim area, because he wants to be closer to his job. Because he already works with a Vietnamese company, Left and also World Media, so he's already starting to go with that path where he's kind of like already obliged to go to these community events due to his job, and now he would have a double purpose because he would be closer to the area and also he'll be representing us as UVSA.
I'm a little concerned though, just like I didn't know that he was going to be going to events anyway as part of his job. I think something that is good for us to keep in mind is that people wearing double hats are great. It's just that I want to make sure that there's no question about who he's representing when he goes to an event that he may have to go to later. Classic example is Billy. Billy goes to a bunch of events for his work, but people still assume he's representing UVSA. And so I think it needs to be made very clear who he's representing at all times, and to put one identity before the other, so as not to create confusion.
You should wear different hats with different labels. That probably helps.
Jordan, do you have any thoughts?
I have no thoughts. Very productive.
Very constructive. Brian?
So, as Tim mentioned, he served as president 1718. I was a president as well during his time, and with the interactions that I had with him, he is very vocal about there's things that needs to be changed. And he mentioned about vision. He does have a vision that he has mentioned when we had communication, and I believe he has great ideas that he will try to implement, and hopefully he will implement. So I think he is going into the position with the right foot forward. So I think he is, very suited for this position.
Any other thoughts, comments, concerns?
All I concern is it can get quite blunt sometimes. So just making sure that he's running his opinions to you guys before talking to the community about it. That'd be beneficial.
You say that again?
I feel like he can be very blunt sometimes. The way he
Yeah.
comes off with things. So just making sure that he's communicating with the rest of the board before actually sending something out to communities.
I have a question. So I know during his presidency, there seemed to be a lot of controversy. Does anyone the background on why that was?
Do you want to talk about it or should I?
Yes, I serve under his board here as a VP.
It's good to know.
And those internal conflicts were basically caused by two of our board members, the ICC and the plumbing review chair at the time. And most of those conflicts were based on like either petty reasons or basically problems that they couldn't really like solve themselves, even though we tried to reach out numerous times. I remember some issues where like Tim was trying to reach out to them, but the ICC and the fundraising chair were basically ignoring him, and also kind of like giving him a cold shoulder, even though he was trying numerous times to reach out to him, and also advised him to like to not waste his time on these kind of matters because we need to focus on the board and the members itself because they're more important to handle than our current situation. But he still tried to reach out, even going to the point where he wanted to involve other people, and even so it didn't really work out. But I mean, after that year, we kind of like sat down, we talked about what was going on, and we kind of realized that no matter what Tim would have done, it would have been like pretty much talk to a wall because they were not willing to reach out and communicate and like come to a compromise, and that's what he was trying to look for. Compromise.
So, to clarify, I just want to ask a question to clarify. Nick, were you talking within his school or within? Okay.
Within
Yeah, I just wanted to add on top of that because with when you said the people that were involved in the problem, it actually spread on to my year because I'm the president right now. So it wasn't like anything that Tim did. It was it still spread on to my year. So I felt like it was probably just the people, and not really anything that he did because I was still trying to like make a compromise as well.
I have something. When I worked with Tim for VCN, there was an instance where I guess things were not going right because he was the director. And he just started shouting at the members and saying profanities and how disappointed he was. And I don't think that was right. At the same time, he was also shouting at me for things next to him and telling me to just like try to calm down. But I think at the position that he's going for, I don't want him to be too stressed out where like he takes it on other people because that has happened before. I'm just more concerned about like he might just end up making more enemies if that's the case instead of making friendships. So yeah.
I will say, ever since that VCN year, because I was there as well as his stage manager, I did notice those kind of tendencies early on. But I feel like ever since we both joined UVSA together as directors and also doing other projects like camp, and also I worked with him for VCS as a VCS director, I think he kind of has a new perspective. A new perspective on how to like handle problems and how to deal with people because he has more of a calm approach instead of a more aggressive approach.
But I think that was really good feedback too.
That's great.
Also,
You can't rely on
Whenever you're ready, set the timer.
Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Abhijit Kundu, and I'll be running for internal vice president for the years of 2019 to 2021. Just a little background on myself. I've been in VSA and UVSA for about 3 years now. I started as an IVP for seasoned VSA. I had my own interns, nurtured them and raised them to be the next board. I have been a UVSA marketing director with TIN, having a marketing background in that sense. And also, I'm currently now a Team A lead with Hannah for Project Lead Camp. Currently working on the camp right now, actually. Now starting just with my simple motivation of why I want to run for IVP. And it's just because I really want to kind of strengthen and reestablish the connection we have with all internal aspects of UVSA. That goes from the schools to the ICCs and then also the internal coordinators that we have, as well as the e-board. I feel like for the past few years, it's kind of been going stagnant, as well as kind of going down in terms of numbers and retention, especially engagement with our fellow members. These days, leadership seems like a commodity instead of a kind of like a thing that we try to inspire to be and try to motivate the next generation to become the next great leaders. And so that's why my project proposals have been focusing on reunifying the union in terms of schools. And that all starts with pretty much having action plans in place from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And that all starts with pretty much, making connections with the board early on in terms of camp, which I have access to during camp breakouts, as well as, communicating to communication chats as Facebook or Messenger and stuff like that. As well as, pretty much visiting the schools and understanding what they need from us and what we require from them, because that communication has been a little bit neglected, and I want to reestablish that with the schools. So that could be simply just going to schools and hanging out with the board, kind of understanding who they are as people and why they did VSA in the first place, to kind of have a better understanding how, as e-board and myself, can better help them, and also kind of understanding what problems they're facing and what solutions that we can guide them through, since we have a lot of experience in being part of VSA. Another aspect I really want to touch upon is the ICCs. In terms of the events, we have been using the same events for the past, God knows how much. Pretty much doing beach day, formals, as well as special games and other minute projects as well. And the way I would change that is by bringing in new events, pretty much kind of like changing the whole entire wheel. Of course, I'll keep some certain events such as special games, since that does build, sportsmanship and also, friendship with others. But mostly I want to kind of change formals. Kind of want to bring in a new event that will kind of get more students to engage with UVSA, and also UVSA engaging with the students. And the way I would do that is by working with the ICCs and pretty much working with them in terms of the planning process and the execution process, kind of understanding what they want, especially because the ICCs know best on what their schools want and what they want to see in UVSA. So that's definitely what I want to look into. Another last thing I want to look into is the internal coordinators. I want to have them involve more VSA members into their committees, such as media. I worked with media for the past year with Alex, and I want to include more members throughout the year. So we have a larger member count, but we're including like historians, secretaries, and people who involve themselves with media to be part of the media team, so they have more understanding of what to do for their club. As well as I've been part of the BCS Vietnamese Culture Show night, and I want to include more of the ICC's help, because last year we didn't really include the ICCs with the planning, and I feel like this would be a great event for both the ICCs and us UVSA staff to take charge on. These are some aspects I would like to tackle on as IVP, but pretty much the overall goal or my vision is to pretty much have everyone supporting each other, everyone working with each other, understanding what we want to strengthen our leadership and have people want to do leadership for the future, so we can always fall back and rely on our next generation to help. Thank you, and please welcome me for that.
Okay. What is your method to prevent leadership burnout within your board and staff?
Listening to my fellow peers and my fellow alumni, it seems that there's two things that I can do to pretty much prevent burnout. One is to encourage what we're doing is worthwhile and really has an impact on our community and on ourselves to pretty much give a purpose on why we're doing this. Because I feel like some of us kind of go into this and without a purpose or just trying to get experience for their future career. But having a purpose of why we're doing this, the overall message that we're trying to bring out to build leadership and build camaraderie within ourselves that can really help us prevent burnout. And also another thing is transparency amongst us, myself and the e-board, kind of understanding what everybody's doing and also what everybody's timeline and goals are happening. Because once we know how the process is happening, we're more understanding to help our peers and also give time to those who need it. So that's one thing I would definitely, two things I would do.
Communication is very important. If one of your e-board members, like president or EVP, does not respond to communication from outsiders concerning the union as a whole, what would you do?
In terms of like the communication not reaching the president or EVP or any of our e-board staff members, one thing I would do is like to pretty much talk with the e-board member because I feel like we first go towards like social media, like chats and stuff like that. But I personally believe in a direct approach, which is pretty much talking to them face to face, because at least you know the communication is going through, and you're at least you know that whatever you're saying to them is reaching them. So by communicating them in person and also or even calling them helps as well. Pretty much making sure all the communication from external and internal concerns are being addressed can really benefit us in the long run.
Your position focuses a lot on event planning, coordination, and execution. How will you ensure sufficient staffing without overuse of human resources in the organization? How will you balance with regional events with school events?
In terms of event planning, I have so far 3 years of experience in event planning and event coordinating. Ever since I was a VP when I took on the showcase director for Northwich by Night. That was my first ever experience as a leader in terms of event planning. And that's where it kind of taught me how to kind of understand and deal with people, as well as work with their schedule and making sure making sure everyone is utilized to the full potential. Because when you're hosting a large scale event or even managing a small scale event, it's very important to understand that your members and your staff is doing well, and you're always making sure that their concerns are met. Because it's very nice when your superior or your lead is taking care of you as you're doing the work pretty much for the UVSA.
The schools in UVSA currently face an oversaturation of events. How do you plan to balance the need for staff development and regional events to connect schools with their own events?
This kind of goes back to kind of the events that we host with the ICCs, and I'm going to be looking into pretty much planning, because programming is a very big issue for us, because we have faced it in the past where events have been stacking up on each other, or some schools are not able to go to other events because of other events happening. And so the way I would work into this is pretty much establishing a master calendar beforehand. I know we have tried that in the past, or try at least attempted in the past, but this way, with my master calendar, pretty much would enable people to kind of like give input to what events are coming up, and also kind of help me kind of plan the events for the year, because that way I can at least adjust and accommodate to everyone's schedule.
How do you plan on changing the roles of the ICC chair in order to give them more autonomy and responsibility?
Yeah. Could you repeat the last part?
How do you plan on changing the role of the ICC chair in order to give them more autonomy and responsibility?
Okay. So the way I would change the role, or not as much change the role, but kind of treat the IRC role is as a partnership, because I believe that we're both as IDP and IRC, we should go to this together and kind of understand pretty much what's happening with the ICC in terms of event planning and concerns with their own schools. So with the IRC's position, I'll pretty much give them a bit more lead position in terms of like autonomy, and also kind of like working with them in terms of like communication and decision making. So that's how I do it.
the line.
The question was asking about the ICC chair, not the internal relations coordinator.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant IRC. With the ICC role, as in my knowledge, they work with VOD as well as sending VOD meetings and also kind of have run the ICC meetings with the IRC as well. So in terms of that, it would pretty much be like a lead position, like how we have that festival. We have the directorship and also leads, kind of helping us with the project. It would be kind of a similar situation where leads are pretty much in the loop with a lot of the things that are happening, as well as helping with making decisions and making a proper decision that can benefit all of us.
With the raving subculture being a prevalent influence in our member schools, how would you maintain school events? You could say events and external turnout to set events.
Raves have been an issue for UVSA because if we ever plan an event on a rave day, it does cause us to have low turnout or even no turnout sometimes. And the way pretty much to prevent that kind of situations happening is pretty much plan around these kind of events. Because I've also worked at my university student union at CSUN, and I work closely with the events department there. And there have been moments where they planned events on a rave day, and that has caused low turnout. But after kind of talking it, coming to a decisive conclusion, we were able to kind of map out a plan where we were able to kind of have events while also kind of making sure we don't conflict with other events as well. So definitely making sure that we have the knowledge of when things are happening to avoid low turnout and to have bigger turnout.
What new events are you planning on starting up?
One thing I want to bring is what I started as a VSA member is a talent show. As you know, we have Paris by Night. We also have it at camp and also other functions as well. But I want to make it an actual event, kind of like a UVSA by Night, but an actual event that we host. Not the reason behind, not because it has been done in the past, but mainly because we can give it would have the ICCs kind of give an introduction to event planning. Because I feel like a lot of ICCs that come into the position didn't really expect to do event coordinating or event planning, which I intend to fix as well. But to kind of give them experience of how events are run and how to deal with pressure and short notice changes. Because that way, when we host bigger scale events such as friendship games or even beach day or stuff like that, we're able to kind of handle situations on the spot without having to deal with trouble or situations.
In recent years, there have been issues with professionalism among school boards. How do you plan to support the school board's professional development?
One thing I kind of want to bring in right now actually is I've worked with companies that do kind of trainings or workshops, and a lot of companies have trainings based on how to be professional. It doesn't have to be a full scale workshop. It can be an online training or something like that, where it can teach board members to be more professional and understand what they are representing, because we are representing the UVSA, and that is to the public. And so by having these kind of trainings and workshops to kind of help them understand what it means to be professional, and also help them understand what is the right time to be to act a certain way, they really help our overall image to the public.
How do you plan to connect with the school beyond the ICC? Do you plan on working with the school president, and if so, how?
Yes, I think I really want to bring back one thing that I did. I first experienced as a VSA member was the joint school events. Now, it doesn't have to be something really big as a large scale event where people have to come through, but it can be a thing where neighboring schools can have a park day or a luncheon or something like that, where schools are kind of forced to kind of, not forced, but kind of encouraged to meet with other members, as well as give them more opportunities to have UVSA events where they come in and learn more educational and leadership type based programming.
Without mentioning qualities of the other candidate, why are you the most qualified person for this position?
I guess the reason why I would say I'll be the best qualified is I have a drive to get things done. And ever since I've gone into the leadership world and experienced leadership firsthand, I fell in love with succeeding and accomplishing my goals, and that can be done either through my own or getting help from others. And I have experienced a lot of stress and also I guess mishaps as a leader, and I use all those strengths and weaknesses to build myself up to be a better leader overall. And those experiences really kind of shaped me for the person who I am today. Is that I won't give up until the project is done. I won't give up on you.
How will you be more accessible to every school and make it apparent that you were there to help them?
That's okay. Basically, it all. Oh, should I just ask the last one? Okay. The way I would do this is all through the beginning of my term, pretty much visiting schools, meeting up with the members, kind of seeing me as a friend and as a mentor, where I can be the bridge from the schools to the UVSA board. And it all starts just being there. I've already been external since pretty much my first year at the UVSA, and I continue to be external. It doesn't matter how far I have to drive, I'll still go to your events no matter what.
Come on.
You guys have missed that.
We're just like, I get out and get based on like, but we probably didn't even said that.
Oh, yeah, I texted her, I was like, you should head back now.
It's so funny, you were in London with him. He's still there.
So my concern for his event idea is he kind of described how we used to do Northeast by Night, and then the reception was that it kind of sucked because folks was there about a talent show. And so then my concern is that he directed that event himself, so I think want to hear more about what he wants to do so that the event isn't just a Northridge by Night, but then us doing it. That's kind of my concern.
I think as far as enthusiasm goes, I think we all can agree that Obi has a lot of enthusiasm for this fall, and I really love that. I think on my end, my biggest concern, aside from his event sounding very similar to Northwood by Night, is that I'm a little concerned that he's never been in ICC or been involved with the ICC very intimately. Like it's not by any means disqualifying. I just know that it can be difficult to understand what the ICC should be doing at a given point in time if he hasn't been through the process at least once. That's not at all disqualifying. It's just a cause to think about and definitely to consider when if he does get elected, that this is going to be something that he may need a little more help with. If there are going to be others.
I have no comment. I'm here to distribute snacks again. I know both of the candidates, and honestly, in both roles, you have these plus and minuses. I can state them out, and everyone will agree about. It does draw a concern because OB was never an ICC before, which is its own fatigue and its own exhaustion. It also has its own kind of merits and rewards because it gives you a different side of perspective. But it also hurts because to understand how each school feels on a very internal basis is a very unique kind of struggle and sorrow. Comparison of like the President's Council versus the ICC Council, you can actually see the distinctions of Stephen would know the opinions of what each one had. even if you gave the same question to each group, there are overall variations that go one way versus the other. But once again, this doesn't disqualify you from any qualifications. It just is a definite learning curve if you put that in factor. Also, Obi is a full-time student, correct?
Yes.
And he also currently lives in Washington, right? Yep. Once again, those are not building factors. We have to go farther. I also do the commute to the actually too. But it is also all factors that we should consider.
I kind of wish that kind of expanded more on how he wants to, handle the ICC because it sounds like a lot of event planning, but I feel that there's kind of more to the role than just doing event planning. Because they do have more duties beyond that. Same with having to define IRC versus an ICC chair. I kind of feel at times those roles kind of end up being the same thing, so then it feels redundant. Hence the mix up I think he kind of had between the two roles because they're almost like similar.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it's a question that I think is very pertinent to consider. I think having IRCs is a great way to offload some of the burden on the IVP, but then at the same time, it also takes away the ICC's autonomy, right? 2 years ago, when Anne was IRC and Kathy was ICC chair, Kathy did a lot more in terms of stepping up and taking initiative than the ICC this year do because she's taking so much initiative as IRC. And so I think it's hard to really make the ICCs take initiative, and that's kind of why I wanted to understand his to clarify that question, because I feel like the over reliance on IRCs degrades the quality and the experience of the ICC. That's my personal
I think about means like going through listening to the channel, and a lot of questions being like probably the experience on an ICC, and for him not being have never been on an ICC, really doesn't justify like his ability. And I feel like as a IBP, there's a lot going on, there's a lot more to it, and in terms of passions and in terms of like actually dedicated, putting the time and effort into doing things, cannot argue the fact that police really into it. He will try down the office every weekend himself. And then also, even though he is technically not required, but he volunteered himself to do a lot of things. And also, like for media last year, he just basically volunteered himself to be a member, and then this year he actually came and helped like become a logistic part. So there's a lot more quality in his like ability than just revolving around ICC. But again, a lot of questions just like revolve around event plannings and how he will be in charge of the ICC, and that doesn't really justify what he can do. In my opinion.
I definitely agree with that. I think my main focus for focusing on the aspect of ICCs is mostly because that for me that's my big question mark on him. Like I don't doubt that he has the ability of what a guy to do well in the position. I think it's but I think if I had to pinpoint a weakness, it would be his lack of experience with the ICC. Like I said, it's not fatal. It's just something to consider. Like he's definitely qualified to run the other parts of the IVP position. It's just that if he is elected, those are the parts of the job that he will need a little more support on, and it's worth discussing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors involved as well. What kind of set of ICCs you receive, what kind of ICCs will step up to be ICC chair, how you sell the role of ICC chair. That alone is either a role where you take responsibility, or you're just going to be a dummy who's doing pitch work. It's true. as well as even the role of internal relations. In the past, some of the internal relations have just been publicity dummies. Honestly, our Julie's here, but we got 5 or 6 internal relations. They dropped by the first photo shoot. So you can tell, well, while you'll have Steven or Carol, who, while I don't know if it's more voluntary or mandatory, had gone out to schools themselves to represent the role of being, while ICCs came out to us, we came out to them. So it really comes down to how each candidate will take that structure and then rebuild it. And we can only see how that plays out. Just want to put that clarification. It's just that the candidate doesn't just work with e-board, doesn't work with ICCs. You have the core structures of the committees and then the relating committees underneath them. So just my opinion.
I mean, I think we focus a lot on the lack of experience for ICC, but from what I've been noticing about Obi, I mean, okay, so maybe like a year ago, I don't even know who Obi was. Okay, and then like, but then like in the past year or so, I've been seeing Obi showing up to events a lot. So I feel like he has the drive to try to adapt or at least understand the other side more once he's in a position. So internal blocking experience, I feel that for both of us, when we go into a new position, there's always things that we're lacking on that we have to work on. It's whether or not you would want to, or you're able to put in the energy and the time, if you're willing to actually. So I feel like for him to be driving down from, let's say, Northbridge to our meetings and like to events and to BCN and stuff like that, even though, you know, most of us who live down here, we don't even go to those events, which kind of like, you know, we don't have like the excuse. But for him, he does, he's living farther away. So I feel like he would try his best to go to more ICC events, and in turn, that can help him with like bonding with them. That's correct. Break time.
Do you tell me when to start, or do I just start? Start, and then the timer will start.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Kathy Vu. I am going to be the next term internal vice president. So I just want to start us off by saying that this is completely off the cuff. I did not prepare anything, not because I don't care, first of all, but because I wanted to be kind of genuine with everybody, because I felt like if I were to have curated the best version of myself to give to you, that wouldn't be a good representation of what would go out, in 2 years. So I feel like, if you read my proposal, it's called a Grenine plan. Also not because I don't care, but because I also felt that though my words were genuine, that if you don't feel like I'm the type of person who can carry it out, then there's no point in reading it. They're just words at the end of the day if you don't feel like I'm a capable person to do it. If you haven't worked with me personally, then I do want to tell you a little bit about myself and just my experience in UVSA. Before UVSA, I was a VSU intern for 1 year, but my first step into VSA or UVSA was through camp. I was Team C, and then from there I was ICC chair, and then I was Team C lead, and then I am currently the co-internal relations coordinator with CISA, which means that I right now oversee the intercollegiate council representatives. That being said, I do feel like I do have the knowledge and the experience and the background to fulfill this position. In my experience with UVSA, I do see a lot of issues I want to tackle. And I'm not the type of person who does things very detailed. I don't know what OB was like before this. I'm sure he was great because OB is great. But I swear, I'm sure he had all these things laid out for you. And I'm not that person. I'm probably the opposite of OB in that sense, of where I feel like I like to figure things out at the core of it and then work from there, because I don't want to have a sort of set plan of this and that when each year things are different. Each year new presidents come in, new ICCs come in, there are new different needs, different wants, whatever it may be. The only thing that I can see consistently is that there's just always inconsistency. From the year that I was ICC chair, we only had an IRC. We didn't have an IB. And so the role of that person was much different from what the role I had, because I do have an IBP fluid. And so every year it keeps changing. And every year I see the ICCs, despite the fact that they come in very bright-eyed and excited and motivated, by the end of the year they're burnt out. And I don't want to see that happen, because if there's anyone most likely to fulfill like an e-board position or a coordinator position, it's the ICC. And I don't want to see them have their limits tested for no reason. Like the things I see right now as IRC is, there are two main things that we kind of do, besides the fact that they are a voting body. We have meetings that consist of pros and cons of events and of planning events. And right now I feel like there's a saturation of planned events that don't really make use of their efforts, as well as having pros and cons of events where I'm not even entirely sure they're going to bring back. Like just an example, like why would, one of the pros or cons could be, oh, the lighting was bad at your VCN. And in my head, I'm like, I feel like they might be aware of that already. Like, why am I doing this, And I don't feel like they're being used to their fullest potential, and I don't think they're being used effectively. And that's something that I definitely do want to change as IVP, and then helping the IRCs too. Thank you.
ICC roles is often seen mainly as an event coordinator position, and they often forget about their powers in UVSA. How will you help incoming ICCs know their full abilities and representative powers in UVSA?
I definitely think that it's a giant problem, but I think it's a problem of communication and just kind of the presence of e-board. A very big defining moment for a lot of ICCs is Crick Retreat, as well as the presidents. Because that's kind of where they all bond, and when they kind of all come together, understand that they probably have very common visions for their year, but it's also a time where we're supposed to share our vision with them, and I feel like it gets lost. Not in any way like a call out to anyone in the previous board, but like I felt like
because they kind of lacked that sort of guidance from UVSA, they weren't really able to bring that back to their schools, and they weren't able to kind of understand how important they were. It was never really described to them. They kind of just seemed like glorified event coordinators rather than a voting body with, you know, decisions to make and thinking about, you know, the greater good of the union.
How will you be more accessible to every school and make it apparent that you were there for them to know?
Are really accessible to the schools. In terms of like, I do go to all of the events. I think the last couple that I missed have been the BCNs, but for other reasons than like personal reasons. So I think in terms of like showing support, I have done that in the past 2 years, and I can continue to do that. Spring tours and just tours in general are things I do want to bring back for e-board, because I think it's important for the IVP not to be the only face of the union, and that everyone should be involved. But other than that, like I think it's not even just about showing up, but just like making the effort, you know, like I do in my term right now, I do try to hit up all of the presidents online personally, kind of like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Or just seeing how the ICCs are doing on a personal level, like, hey, like how's school doing? How's this and that going? In order for them to feel supported, you know, but it can't just come from me, it has to also come from e-board. I would encourage all of the rest of the new e-board, whoever it may be, to do that, because, you know, that's what means something to them. That's what connects them here. And so it could even be a Skype call just to kind of talk about how their term is going, how they're doing personally, things like that, reaching out to the people.
How do you plan to offset the weaknesses that you mentioned earlier?
Of myself, or I'm sorry, what were you referring to? I'm sorry, what was that referring to specifically? Someone?
Of yourself.
Of myself. Okay. I didn't mention any earlier, so I guess I gotta pick. Okay. Well, I am. So there are a couple things that I am and I'm not. I am definitely not a structured human being. I work well in chaos personally, and I have come to realize that most people don't work well in chaos, and that's taken some time in a lot of leadership positions in order for me to kind of understand how to convey my chaos into something that makes sense to people, and that's something I think I'm a lot more able to do now. But I do feel that my chaos is also kind of good in a sense, just because that I am very flexible. I understand a lot of things. I don't have just one vision that I think will, you know, I have to do this X, Y, Z. I have to implement this project. I have to do this, or we have to have this event, or this will happen. I kind of look at the greater big picture of things of like, okay, what's best for the union? What's best for the schools? What's best for this? And I don't care to know that I know what's best. I care to ask what everyone else thinks and what really is. But I also do know that I put my foot down in terms of like knowing what I value and where I can take from other people's perspective and create something where everyone can agree.
How do you plan to connect with schools beyond the ICCs? Do you plan on working with school presidents? If so, how?
I do plan on working with school presidents. I think this year I wasn't really able to, and kind of one of the things that I regret most of this year, because I wasn't aware that was something that was going to be put onto my position. Despite like being close to them in terms of like personal relations, that they felt like they could come, reach out, and ask questions. Like I felt like I couldn't really support them in their term, because I know a lot of them came to me afterwards, like midterm, and kind of talked about different problems where I wish I would have reached out at the beginning. And so I definitely think that's something that I would want to do, to not only get to know like their e-board as much as possible, if going to their meetings, but to just really specifically talk to both the presidents and the ICCs to kind of know what's going on with their schools internally, like just different problems. Like if we wanted to talk about, I know CSULA has a lot of problems right now in terms of like whether or not they're still going to even exist as, you know, an organization anymore, and trying to help navigate the different, I guess, personalities of each school, because, you know, you have to think about whether a school is a commuter school, whether or not a school has access to transportation, whether or not a school has this and that, and trying to see if we in the community can help that in some way.
With the rating subculture being a prevalent influence in our member schools, how would you maintain school events, UVSA events, and external turnouts to said events?
The first word was subculture, right?
With the raving subculture.
Oh, okay. How do I to work around this? Okay, got it. That was a tricky one. I think it does take somebody who kind of understands the culture as well to be able to navigate that, because it sometimes can be difficult in this space to split work and play, because we're all friends and we all work together. And so the lines sometimes get blurred based upon who's in leadership or whatever values, whatever school has, whatever it is. And so I think the only way to really do that is at the root of it, kind of making this a priority, because I don't think anyone can disagree that UVSA, be it culture, just keeping our heritage, having like this family system that we have is not important, but I think that message gets lost along the way, and it's about reminding everybody like that's what's important, like yeah, you can have your rape culture, you can have this and that, like you do your own life, whatever it is, but a part of you cares about this too, and you need to position yourself in a way where, yeah, I can have fun, but here, this is what's serious, this is what needs to be done. And so I think that just comes from changing the nature of how we portray ourselves as a union and ourselves as people.
What are your plans for the other internal projects of UVSA besides ICCs?
I don't have examples of them. I'm sorry. Like you mean like that, or like Project U, or like what do you mean specifically? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's what they're talking about, like the different projects within the organization. So like if it's a camp,
okay,
event, or like even smaller projects and
stuff. So what is the question, sir?
What are your plans for the other internal projects of UVSA besides ICCs?
So I've only really been involved in camp, and that's I haven't really been involved in that except for being on entertainment one year. But I also do know that that has a very strong foundation in terms of like their leadership, people who are interested in people keeping it alive. And so I think I would have to kind of rely on other people's experience to kind of tell me what they need or what's going on to be filled in on that aspect, to be completely honest. But I think in whatever way I can, I would support any other visions that other people have, because obviously like Project 2, like we want to have more members who want to dance, or VCS, and so I would kind of want to help them build upon what they have already, because like I feel like because we have so many projects, kind of honing down on what's important, what's essential, and how we can improve those rather than figuring out like what else can we do. So I think whatever we have existing that people want to continue having and we feel like is important, I'm going to help with the groundwork of that, and how that we can help with the groundwork so that we are able to continue having those really important projects for years later, and not just having it survive the year that I am here.
What was a conflict that happened while working with ICCs, and how did you come to a solution?
Conflict that happened. So we had bucking and formals. That was a big problem, where if no one knows, bucking got rained on, so the event got canceled, and the only date that was viable for them was the date that we had for formals. And that caused a lot of conflict within the ICCs, because there was a portion of them that really wanted to continue on with the work that they had, because they really wanted to revamp formals. They really wanted to bring it back in a sense, because the participation has been lacking, and they felt like all their hard work was going to go away. Event for a lot of UVSA schools, and it was really hard on them. But I think through deliberation and through just not me pushing any sort of agenda on them, like I didn't want either or, I was okay with either or event. But in terms of like me kind of guiding them, okay, like what do you value? As an ICC, like what is important to you? Like, do you want the schools to all be together? Is that the point of formals for you? And they kind of started to agree with that. Like, yeah, like that's what we want. We want to bring everyone together. And they kind of came to the realization that the likelihood of bucking bringing them to the schools together more so than formals was what was going to happen. And so they kind of had to let that go. And it was very hard for all of us. I think like at the end of the day, like we were all okay. Hope that answered that question. you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry. I'm just dying.
Does anybody have any initial thoughts? Because if not, I could talk forever.
I have an initial thought.
Yes.
We haven't had an ICC from an ICC chair. It's kind of refreshing to see ICC staff. Someone from ICC space.
I just want to preface anything that I say with the fact that Kathy is my little, and I have known her for about 10 years now. So, you know, I've got a very solid understanding of Kathy as a person, and when she says she works in organized chaos, that is exactly how she functions. It's kind of hard, you know, and as she mentioned, it has been a lot better for her to be able to communicate the chaos inside of her head in a way that makes sense to other people. And that, you know, I know for a lot of people that's not exactly the kind of work style that they would prefer. My biggest impression of Kathy as an IVP, like if I have to be honest, I'm not at all inspired by her plans for UVSA. If we're talking just in the ICC space and what she has to do with what her plans are for the school, I think she has some top-notch ideas. She has the experience and the knowledge and all of the background necessary to make very well-informed decisions. I think she has the knowledge that, you know, what the intricacies of what being an ICC, what being a part, what being a representative of the school means is something that she has a very solid grasp on. But as far as her understanding about the rest of the UVSA, I have to say that it is a little lacking. And that's my opinion.
So I myself haven't worked with her, so it's like I don't have any experience. I think that, you know, just hearing the word chaos kind of had me pause for a second, but I think she's very self-aware of her own capabilities, and so then I would actually like to hear like from folks that have worked with her, you know, like how has her work style been with your experiences?
From my experience working with Kathy, it's very much she always sees multiple different paths to get to the same end result. And so she's, like she said, she's very flexible. She's not committed to any one particular idea at any particular one time. And if you say, okay, well, I'm not quite liking the way that you're approaching this, do you think we can try it a different way? She'll think of another one in an instant. She's very flexible like that. And, you know, while that is a plus, it's great to be flexible. It also means that it's hard to get her to be strongly committed to something. She has her ideals and her convictions, which at her core she'll stick to. But if you're asking her to commit to one event or another, she'll focus more on the intent behind it rather than the event itself, if that makes any sense. Ryan, do you have any thoughts?
So I worked with her when I was hospitality centurion for Summit, and she is very true to what she says. She's very chaotic. I'm very structured. So we clash heads a lot. We butt heads a lot. However, she actually helped guide me in the right path towards being a successful, hospitality security. She had like great ideas. She helped fill in the spots where I was missing. And like what Sarah was saying, she sees multiple paths in order to get to the destination. Where for me, I see a straight path. She sees 10 different angles. And with those 10 different angles, she sees like different outcomes or different like possibilities of where we might fall short, and she corrects them through those chaotic paths that she takes. So at the end of the day, she is able to really understand what needs to be done. She understands how to get there. And sure, the process may be a little bit messy, but when we reach the goal, it will not only be perfect, but it would also be beyond expectations.
I think a kind of a way to mitigate her organized chaos is that if you give Kathy a set of boundaries, like we can't do this, but we can do this, right? If you give her a sandbox to work within, she functions very well. If you give her kind of an open field, she's not quite as effective. And so I think whereas a lot of people are very structured, if you can give her a general outline of what you want, she's very good at coming up with creative ways to get that final outcome.
I think to say that, I believe that, I think Kathy would do amazingly well as an IVP. She definitely has the relationship with the constituent schools that will make that bond between the ICCs and the IVP really successful, because she's worked with them for a good amount of years. And I think to say, I mean, her plans for the ICCs are good, and her plans for other UVSA projects also need work, but that's not to say that like she won't care about other UVSA projects. I think it's hard to come up with projects or plans or ideas for UVSA projects when you haven't been a part of them for so long, when you haven't been a part of them in general. And the reason why she has so many great ideas for ICCs is because she's worked with them for so long. I think if we gave her the chance to be a part of that festival, a part of Camp Again or whatever, then she'll actually be able to understand what it's all about and create plans for them as well.
I had an opportunity to work with her a little bit when she was ICC chair. She was on the board of directors. One of the big conflicts that we had that year was with the VSU situation, with what's going to happen, right? I really liked that she would ask a lot of really hard questions. She would ask those critical questions that most people just kind of glance over. Like she would ask, like, okay, is this something that would be good for us? Is this the right path, right? And then my explanation was that there is really no defined path, because it's really up to the schools to decide how they would want to navigate this. And as for UVSA, we will support whatever decision it is that ICC makes, right? And I think that was that was kind of the point where I was like, this is I think should be really great for everyone, just because that being able to see that, to ask those hard questions, and then to not just kind of mope about it by yourself, but ask other people for guidance or for support, I thought was very refreshing for me, just to see people ask questions, and when they're not sure, to ask questions.
I think to add on to that, with Kathy, you really get what's on her mind at all times. It's very rare for her to withhold her opinion, and it's kind of, she has gotten a lot more tactful over the years. But one thing that she's never refrained from is standing up when she knows something is wrong. And I think that's, I think for e-board, the incoming e-board, I think what's really important to consider is, I think we have two very strong candidates in both of their own different ways. And I think it's very pertinent to understand what it is that we, or what we feel is more important, or what we feel is, what we as an organization want for our future, right? There's a lot, I think both of these candidates have very different approaches to reach the same goal. And I think it's up to us to decide how, or which path we want to take to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I've also had I've also had plenty of conversations with Kathy about UVSA camp, and to say she's dedicated is an understatement. I think she's really passionate, and she knows exactly what needs to happen in order for things to be successful. And I think that having Kathy as IVP is going to help strengthen that bond between UVSA and their constituents.
And to add on to that, during the end of my presidency, I had a couple of the presidents and I had our stripes with UVSA and whatnot. But what she did during that time really defined, how she thought of the space and how I thought of the space. She thinks of the space very highly, and she wants to see it grow. And that has been true since the day I met her until she spoke here. And I think she'll continue on with, if she is elected, she'll want to see the space grow. She wants to see the connections being made, and she wants everyone here to get the experience she had.
One thought, the great key out reminds me is how both candidates would handle interim president, because that, I mean, Lord forbid something happen. But if that happens, how would these two individuals handle taking up that space? And I think that would be a good space for everybody when you're voting to think about how that would happen. It's not crucial to, I think, how you're going to decide, but also just important in the character locally now.
So is it an IVP and then it goes to a EV? Oh, okay.
IVP before E.
I would for E, okay.
Yeah.
Except for there's E.
And there's T.
Last break that we have before our last candidate.
It's a good thing we have a couple of days to cast our vote. Oh, Saturday today? Crap.
Schools are,
We're on. We're all. We're all thinking the same thing. How is this actually like? Yellow.
It's gonna be an interesting year. Welcome back. Not say. I only thought about one part. I didn't say it.
Theo. Theo. I cannot hear the word chaos.
Make me laugh. Hey, Christy, I know you're watching. What? What? Christy, LVM Christy.
What? Oh.
Oh yeah. When you're getting paranoid.
Yeah, like, can you see your voice on that?
I forgot that. Remember, this is a cult meeting.
They like, I mean,
Yeah. And then it's easy for you, and then it's after that.
I think it's.
Oh, should the door be closed?
Should they close it out close?
First president. Are we ready?
we're not judging you, but
We're judging you.
partially.
We judged. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wendy Nguyen. I was born on January 24th, 1994. I'm an Aquarius.
Yeah, me too.
And Play Festival has been a gateway for me to continue my journey through UVSA since 2013. And while I can proudly say that we all share a common goal for the union, we cannot deny that our union is currently in a lackluster state as of now, mainly because its leaders aren't really responsible for our staffs. And I believe that's the sole reason we are where we are today, right now. We have big projects like leadership camps and TED Festival, but I feel we are not fully connected with one another. So what does it mean to be a part of something greater than ourselves? And what does it mean to find a connection? Where do we find a connection that connects us together? Something that brings us all together, a higher purpose. So are we just here to work and then go home? Is that it? So I come here today not because I know I'm going to become the president. I chose to show up today because I'm confident in us. I'm confident in our potential to go beyond expectations. And I am confident in our capabilities to overcome obstacles and to live the legacy that our predecessors have left behind for us. One's word is one's bond. And only if you want, the only thing that makes us unique and special is that our desire to volunteer without paid monetary. And to sacrifice our time to serve and to make an effort to help those to the left and those to the right of us. And when we take actions, we give it our all. And we expect nothing except thanks and gratitude in return. And just those two is enough to make us feel fulfilled and happy. So that's why we come back every year, crazily enough. Right? And the one quality that I can proudly say that our great leaders possess is courage, and courage, on courage. And the courage to make the call during tough times, and courage to take all the blames when things go wrong, and the courage to pass along the credits when the team succeeds. And the courage to acknowledge they are flawed, and most importantly, the courage to raise their hand and say, I'm not sure what I'm doing, I need help. And I believe each and every individual has a capacity for leadership because leadership is not a rank. Leadership is not a position. And I believe we can find a higher purpose in each of the projects that we do, mainly TED Festival, Camp, and all those projects that we do throughout the year. And I believe only when we choose to get back on our path to find that higher purpose, will we then find a connection that ties us together. And I believe there's a future where everyone shall have the courage to take the torch, to continue with UVSA mission, and to bring
changes within for the betterment for our union. A sustainable environment where our leaders can freely think and express their ideas without the fear of repercussion or backlash, and to take ownership of the decisions they make, every single decision that they make. They would have to be accountable and responsible for it since the beginning toward the end. And the greatest legacy that we can ever hope to leave in our successors is a legacy of character and faith. And only then will our union can drive forward for success. Thank you for your time.
What is your method to prevent leadership burnout within your board and staff as a whole?
From my experience with Dead Festival and recently executive board, being a part of executive board. Also, as an event coordinator for Dead Festival this past year, I noticed that we have way too many meetings and we don't have enough quality time, because I believe quality time out of meeting is also a chance for us to increase our interpersonal skills, communication skills, as well as our higher make our connections at a higher quality, because having more meetings doesn't mean that we're going to do well in a project. It's all about, I believe it's all about efficiency and the idea of going to the meetings for every single project. I can say for Deaf Festival because I've experienced it with my previous board. And this upcoming year, I do plan to change the way we meet and the way we tackle Deaf Festival, and as well as potentially the entire union.
Your position focuses a lot on event planning, coordination, and execution. How will you ensure sufficient staffing without overuse of human resources in the organization? How will you balance regional events and school events?
To answer the first question about human resources, it's all about understanding the required amount of people showing up to events. I want to use community events as an example, and sometimes less could be more. And I believe it's all about the quality and the way we present ourselves toward the community. And sometimes we don't even need to have 10 people to represent our union in, let's say, a community dinner. Instead, we can have 1 or 2 people come there and discuss with the event planner, and to have a chance to show ourselves to the rest of the people who attend the meeting, to showcase what we do and what we're capable of, and our future and programs in the future. And I think that's one of the ways we can resolve members burnout, and then members burnout and fear of lacking of participation. And to answer the second question regarding balancing internal event and regional, right? This has a lot to do with communicating with the core and the external vice president, and depending on how far the external president is willing to go in order to in terms of expanding our union, not just in Southern California but at national level. So by working with them, I think we can work out what we need to do and what we shouldn't do, because what we do should always be in our union's best interest.
What do you think the biggest issue facing UVSA, and how do you plan to attack it? What do you think is the biggest issue facing UVSA, and how do you plan to attack it?
The biggest issue with us is, like I said earlier in my speech, we do the work, but we don't know why we do it. We just do it because we have to. But sometimes we do volunteer, well, we are volunteers, but the destructive part of this is that if we cannot find a higher purpose, the reason why we even want to do this, what we want to get out of the experience, if we never going to define it, then I think we will always be in our current state, and potentially we will have a hard time growing as a unit.
As president, how do you plan on fixing and rebuilding a relationship with our longtime Vietnamese community organization confidence, knowing what you have done as
The main thing I would do is focus on the internal and know know what we're trying to go for in the first term, and once only when we've established that, then we can have a sit down in a conversation to have a conversation with with our community organizations partners, because if we don't know what our goals are and why we're here, then having a maintaining a relationship with them is going to be very difficult, and sometimes it can lead to conflicts because we have different wants and we have different needs, and sometimes they misunderstand us and our intentions, and sometimes we do vice versa. So it's important to us to establish our ground and our goals, at least for the first term, and only then we can go out there and have a sit down to have a conversation with them. So to increase the collaborative effort that both of us want to do.
Presidency can be a very broad role. Some presidents are more hands-on, some more acting as a supervisor, some like to deal with just the overall aspect of the organization. Can you describe what will be your presidency style in terms of leading your fellow board coordinators and other staff members?
Ever since 2013, I joined this committee called Operations. And year by year, I realized that as I move up the role in the committee, I realized my greatest strength is not to do everything by myself, but my greatest strength is to rely on the people who follow me. So I would say that I am the second and the third one you just talked about, being the supervisor and being the overseer, but not touch the specific work, because those work are designed for my followers to do. But I still believe that at the end of the day, our responsibilities will fall at for the person at the top. And I do believe that I'm the kind of person who sees the overall, and will make sure that the little intricacies of a project, let's say, work, but at the same time not micromanaging the person who are dedicated to the job, but more of like a servant leader kind of thing, and a supportive role player.
What is the first thing on your checklist would you like to tackle as a president?
The very first thing is that as many like all of the candidates touch on, I believe, is that the first few months is extremely vital to our relationship with the schools, our relationships with our members, and our relationships with the community organizations, because at first it may be tough, difficult, and hard to interact, but if we don't overcome the hill, the upward, then I don't think I think it will be a lot difficult for us to maintain the relationship with everyone. So I think the first thing that I would do is to establish a strong relationship with our constituents, and by doing so, I do plan on bringing back general meetings and the things that bring us all together.
What legacy would you like to leave behind after your term?
Something that I would leave behind is not something that's materialistic or something that we all can see, but it's to hopefully to instill like quote unquote the willfire to the successors so that they continue what we're doing because I acknowledge that we're not perfect, but as long as we continue and the people who come after us will catch our mistakes and then they will be able to better it to better our union as a whole. So that's something I want to do.
In the past, UVSA has been a case of individuals.
Oh, you said it to me later.
That's my husband. Well, I don't know about this next term, but
No. It was such a fragile relationship.
He didn't even give you a raise. And you still owe your relationship goal.
What? That's not a goal.
Emma gets the only loyal one.
Buy it, and they just cut the and then like throw in some like pickled radish and stuff. Good? There you go.
Initial thoughts, comments, questions?
I can say that I feel that Noah is extremely committed and he's, just in my experience, I feel that he gives it his all, and I feel that that's kind of something that if you're following someone, you also have to feel that they are someone who would be down in the trenches with you. Admittedly, I think that I guess like my problem with him at times can be I don't know how to read the guy. And so then, I think that for folks that might be coming in, they might think he's extremely serious and or not understand when he's trolling.
he's a very interesting person.
Daddy, I love what you said. I think the UVSA right now needs somebody who has a strong foundation of what it means to be a part of this organization, to spread that kind of philosophy and love throughout its members. And he's a quirky dude with a quirky heart, and it feels right. Honestly, I can't wait to see if he gets it. It's just where he's going to take it, and I think his experience with UNAFSA has opened his eyes up to how VSA is as a concept in this entire country. I hope he moves forward with that. For me personally, I would love to see a strong relationship between UNAFSA and VSA SoCal, and just moving forward altogether. I want to see an evolution in the way this organization works, and I think he has all the right mindsets, and he gets a good team, and they're all on board. Just excited to see where things will go.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting because if you look at the dynamic of how everyone joined, it's through VSA. Everyone here joined the VSA first. Only one actually comes from a non-VSA background, which kind of shows you the level that UVSA is at. That you can be part of UVSA and never have joined the VSA to start with. You have a lot of operations members, a lot of long-time members. Some of the office members have actually hit like the 12-year marker, full calendar, and yet they've never did VSA. And so for Nguyen, this is very, I wouldn't say anomaly. Well, he is an anomaly himself, but the aspect that he went from operations towards the school branch is very rare, because that's usually with, I don't relate to them, they're not part of the college, things like that. But it was very interesting that he has grown both exponentially as a person and as well as speech giving. I know he does struggle since 2013, he does lose his biggest hindrances. So it's definitely growth, but the aspect that he did most was the understanding what UVSA means as a whole. When you think of it as just your own school or your own committee or the things you've totally been part of, it's hard to see beyond that, and the fact that he reached that from an operations standpoint and then reached that furthermore into the e-board standpoint And with that, going into the national role itself has been, from my understanding, what we've seen happen at the NASA, where he would just disappear, going, "I need to take pictures," and he runs away. So it's a degree of energy and sympathy that he really understands as a whole, which I think is really strong for driving up the presidentship. My drawing concern is what Stephen did point out is first impressions. When someone comes in as a stranger without an organization, everyone puts the president, even if they may not be the person in charge of the event, as the idol figure. They will be blamed, they will be praised for whatever occurs, even if they are not directly involved. And it's one of those concerning mental pressures as well, where if no one has the ability to. So it's true. You could say, hey, as an e-board, we will do this together, or no, don't worry. If he says something wrong, we'll cover him. But it's one of those inner dynamics that everyone has to ask: is how is Nguyen as a figurehead solo? How is he together? And what is the best case scenario? What are the worst case scenarios? But just overall, like based off of everyone's opinions, just ask yourself that. This person will represent UVSA not just for the next year, but the next 2 years. And whoever is underneath his tutelage will also represent his ways of life, his terms of way of action, what UVSA means to everyone else, internally and most oddly enough, very externally. But that's my opinion.
I also like to chime in. I am very well aware of the mistakes that I've committed throughout my term. And, when having been a part of my e-board for the last year, I think he's very acutely aware of my deficiencies as a leader. And I think he is also very aware of how he plans to avoid those fallbacks, those pitfalls. I think having been on e-board for this past year has given Nguyen a lot of the tools and knowledge that he needs in order to be effective, right? I think that for me personally, what the things that I lack, he knows how he now knows how to approach in a different way. And I think that, not to say that everything crashed and burned this year, but I think that things for this next 2 terms, if he's elected, will be vastly different from how I handled it. And I think, that's going to be a good thing.
I think that just another concern at times that I can have about him is that he is very dedicated, but I think he sometimes forgets to take care of himself. It's like he seems like he can fall asleep on whatever circus he's on or whatever. And then I just kind of feel that his dedication, folks just need to kind of watch out for him to make sure that he's actually keeping his health up, because that can be a problem is you're too committed and then you're not taking care of yourself and you're falling asleep in random places.
So, one thing that I would be partially concerned about, not only just in the win, but all of next year's board, or the community board in general, is the effectiveness of communication within the Vietnamese community. And that is something that I had to learn very quickly during my term as LPN director. And that is one thing that I'm afraid of this upcoming term, is how UVSA e-board will communicate themselves to the community. That itself comes with just experience over time. But the way Nguyen comes off sometimes may be a bit hard to read, as Stephen said, and that is something that I would be not very, but that is something that I would be cautious about. Because even now, there have still been issues within the Vietnamese community that we have not been able to solve. And that's not just within this term. This has gone over the span of like multiple terms that we have been getting this as well.
I think my only concern with Nguyen is that because we know Nguyen, it's easy to be like, yeah, you know, I think we're also really aware of if we didn't know Nguyen, how we would view Nguyen, if that makes sense. Like, if because he's most likely, why can't I talk now? Because if he is elected president, how he's viewed by everyone on like the 5 seconds he's on stage, if he ever has to say anything, matters a lot. And he does not emote very well, and he doesn't convey his very great thoughts very well either. It is a big concern, and it is something that I definitely feel like as whoever elects the board to help him with somehow, because it is important. But yeah, that's my only concern. But I think he has great ideas and understands what needs to be done. I just think he needs to like look for fun.
My concern with him is that I think right now he's getting very comfortable and he likes to joke around a lot, but sometimes like you don't know if he's kidding. So if he says like, "Oh yeah, I'm at the office," but he's just kidding, you show up at the office and no one's there. As a president, that would not go very well, especially if he's joking around with like what's going on in the community. And they're like, "Oh, I came with the wrong person." But you know, like it's just that kind of thing. But I feel like with responsibility, he hopefully will learn to abstain from that.
I personally don't really see that persona. Trickery, I guess, is the word. Just because I think that's just within peers, the way he is. Like you were saying, Paul, like him being comfortable. But I can't imagine that he would be that kind of person to the wider community, especially, I think if he understands the weight of presidency with UVSA. Like, I just don't see it happening at all. And if it does, well, we'll all just slap him really hard and have him get together. But I so doubt it. I feel like he cares too much to joke on it, you know. And I feel like this will change his mindset as he goes in leading everybody. And if he has a good team, you know, like you guys, like you bust in there, you tell him what's up, you know. And that's the whole part of it, right? It's not him anymore. It's going to be a team, a board of individuals who are going to be leading the organization. So I'm very confident in that things will work out in that way. You know, I personally am not worried that he will say the wrong thing should it come.
I mean, just from my experience alone with the e-board and everyone's experience, it should be obvious. It's not a solo effort. It is definitely your input is solo, but overall it's a team action. I mean, when I did things, I know I never made mistakes. But there was always a rule we had established was if I am up, then I blame Tommy. And if me and Tommy am up, we blame Julie. And we established that all along the lines. And we survived. Joking about it or not, it's very important to have that bond, that degree of camaraderie, and know that the organization, while you are representing its best interests, the organization itself is also covering you when you need it. And I think Human definitely has a symbiotic relationship, but it's also very important. Will Nguyen represent that as well. But true, everyone here has talked about alumni. Everyone has talked about who they know as a person individually and distinguish it. But ask yourself, as general members, things like that, what is the caution that will come out of it? If I was just a general member, I came in and then I started talking to Nguyen, how would I react? And if the answer is negative for you, then it's your responsibility to help Nguyen develop if he becomes president. So just keep that in mind that this is a team effort.
That's 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Presidency, you gotta have a lot of time to go.
That concludes the election, the verbal part or the presentation part of the board election. For all those who are staff, you guys have until 11:59 tonight to put in your votes. If you're a president or an IC representing your school, you have until Wednesday at 11:59. That was extended so that you guys can regroup with your own school to make a school decision. Does anyone have any questions regarding anything?
If you guys want orange Kit Kats, they're.
Very relevant.
The real question, sorry.
What, oh, I have a question. So there were some questions that we didn't ask them. When will they respond? How are they going to?
So I have it all set up. I'm gonna email it right now. And then all the candidates, I guess whenever they're done answering it, because it's optional for them to answer now that it's technically done. It's optional for them to answer, but if they do answer, then once they're completed answering all the questions, then I'll post it up. If it's past the deadline, I'll still post it up just so that people can know that there was an answer to the question. You had the most questions out of all.
Wait, what is it?
Nice. About competition.
Okay, all questions have been emailed out. Next week is part 1 of the Set Festival.
We told the winner that.
Next week is part 1. It is Mother's Day, so we'll try to keep it short and on time so that you can time your parents. But yes, so I think committees are going into hospitality, media, pageant.